Right, hey everyone, welcome to episode 158. I'm Brian Piergrossi, this is Brett McCall, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited about diving into some things that we've had some conversation about, and I just wanted to continue the conversation. I wanted to share the conversation, and so here we are. So you're welcome.
Hi everybody.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, and anyone, please feel free to ask questions, to contribute your stories, comments, questions, inquiries, jokes, whatever you want to share, and we'll engage you in the conversation as well. So the conversation, you could say it's about virtual reality, but it's about a lot of things that interrelate to virtual reality. Ultimately, I think it's about spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to start with virtual reality.
Which actually could be a kind of virtual reality.
Could be. I like that. Yeah, we're going to go deep today, and we just welcome you to dive deep with us and see where we end up. It's sort of a exploration into consciousness is the way I kind of view it. So I'm excited about what's happening with virtual reality, and you're a part of it. You're at the forefront of it. You have something locally here in Asheville that we'll talk about, and you used the term futurist in the video I was listening to today, which I'm also really fascinated by. So it's like there's these technological advances, and I feel like these technological advances are pushing us to the brink of really questioning what is reality, who are we really, what's possible, what's not possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like there's this potential to create worlds that feel as real as this world, right? So then that brings up the question, which is the spiritual question for me, which is this world a real world? You know, and the spiritual teachings, the spiritual sages throughout different ages and cultures and times have said, no, this is not a real world. You know, this is an illusion. This is a dream. This is, you can, if you want to put it in like sort of virtual reality terms, simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my inquiry with you, and what I was excited about is you're like, yeah, I get it, I know what you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, somebody understands what I'm talking about. Like, this is a virtual reality amidst many other virtual realities. Yep. Right? So how did you come to this realization, or how did you, tell me about the way you see it or how you came to it?
Yeah, so the nexus for me was a book by Richard Bach called Illusions.
Yeah. And
it's kind of a folk tale about him meeting a spiritual master who teaches him to walk on water and swim through the land. And for me at the time, I took it real literal, and started to inquire for myself, what is this reality, if it's possible to sort of warp or redefine what we understand scientifically about the physical world. And that's, so far, like, everything I've said is just about the physical world.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, if we're going to talk about reality, that we separate out some of the buckets, if you will, in which we can compartmentalize some of the content that we're going to discuss. So there's the physical reality, right? There's a mental reality. There's the emotional reality. There's a spiritual reality. There's some kind of energetic reality, which may be linked with the spiritual reality, or any one of those. Yeah. There's definitely like overlayments, but I think the three that are most important for us to talk about, because they're conscious, are the physical, the emotional, and the mental. Mm-hmm. And from there, I think the one that feels maybe the most elusive to most people, including myself, is the emotional. Mm-hmm. It's the one that is sort of more like a barometer, or it's like my control panel. My emotions give me a lot of feedback and information about how I'm interacting with the what's actually happening. Yeah. But the what's actually happening, I think, can be pretty well defined by what we're perceiving, our mental reality, and what we're experiencing in terms of the physical reality. Mm-hmm. Like, we can both agree that this table is hard, and and the surroundings around us, we can point to those things and say glass, water, table.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful because it defines a shared reality. I think mentally also we're using language, which is a total mental construct.
Right.
So I read that book, I want to say it was probably 16 years old, 17 years old. And it definitely defined the next, decades of my pursuits in a lot of ways. I kind of wish someone would come into my life that would have that level of play and disruption to my own limitations or illusions.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is like there's the mental reality, there's the emotional reality, there's the physical reality, there's the spiritual reality, and what I find as I've gone deeper into this is that they're all interconnected. They all affect each other, right? So it's like I'm seeing something physically, but how I'm feeling emotionally, where I am mentally, where I am spiritually, whatever that even means. But like all of these things are interwoven. So that's what really kind of has gotten me down this, what we call like, the proverbial rabbit hole is, and I know people who've exploring quantum physics have gone this thing where it's like you see something and then it's like, well, the observer and the observed are one, so my act of observation is changing what I'm observing, right? So what am I actually observing? Is there any objective reality? What is your perception of that? It's like,
I don't know.
It's like you're always in a relationship.
Yeah, I think that there's a limitation to embodying our physical human bodies that would say no, there's no objective reality from this perspective. I'm taking a risk by giving a firm answer. Yeah. Right. So I think no, if our awareness is locked into this 6'1", 175-pound sack of meat. Yeah. However, we have the ability with our imagination to cast our attention beyond this physical limit. Yeah. And I think when we do that, we can touch the stream that is objective, that is, if you will, the truth. I think that we're still coming from this limited perspective even when we're out there. Yeah. And I think that even though we're touching the river, we can't ever know it completely. Yeah. Communicate it fully. I mean, we can attempt. Yeah. So I think there's an impossibility that happens there. Like I would say that's impossible. Like it's impossible to objectively experience this experience. And I think that's what we're here to do. What we're here to do is the impossible thing, which is communicate my experience of that objective reality or the subjective reality from my own perspective, which ultimately does put a layer of identifying the objective shared reality of what that thing is.
And it feels like what we're tapping into, which you talked, I was mentioning, I watched the YouTube video that you did earlier today, and you were talking about this great quote from Einstein: imagination, I believe the exact quote is, imagination is more important than knowledge. Yes. Right? Yeah. So that, to me, that's what I'm coming to the brink of, I feel like, in my exploration, is like, this is just imagination, right? Virtual reality, someone imagined it, or a group of people imagined it, and made this an imaginary world that someone else steps into, and they're playing that imaginary world. Yeah. So it's like, if we start to realize that everything is our imagination, then this freedom opens up to imagine whatever we want and to create whatever we want. And this is where I think it becomes a spiritual, what the technological, the scientific becomes a spiritual, they all becomes one thing, where, the mystical realization is that I am one with God, I am one with creation, with the Creator. So I think we're awakening to becoming one with creation. Yeah. And then we can create, everything becomes possible to create. And my mind just got
I think it is that's necessary, right? It's necessary for your mind to go sort of
it is
like
necessary.
you did this, and it
as
sort
often
of felt
as possible.
like it sort of felt like what you did was like the fruit of your mind went, and like you're revealing the inside out. And yeah, I think that's the perspective that we get to whenever we're talking about this. I mean, the layers on which we're talking about it are, the conscious, and then we've got the subconscious and the superconscious. And I think that each one of those are places you can sort of rest and attempt to view the world through.
So do you feel like this has benefited you in your life, like delving into virtual reality?
The technology?
Yeah, why don't you explain a little bit about what you've been delving into?
Sure.
And then so 2 questions, what have you been delving into, and has it benefited you in your personal life?
Yeah, sure. It started, so if you watch the YouTube talk, which I'm gonna just reference for the folks here, it was a Creative Mornings talk where I talked about how I got into virtual reality last May, so May of 2017. And then
you got into it.
Yeah,
okay.
I actually got in. I mean, I did the talk in 2017.
Yeah.
In May of 2017.
Yeah.
I was introduced to virtual reality for the first time in December of 2016. So it was a pretty deep dive into what was possible with the medium. And in February, I bought my own rig, and then I started to just explore whatever was there. Right. I just wanted to give me the poo-poo platter and let me taste a little bit here and a little bit there. And so it's worth watching the talk, because I broke my ankle. I'm an athlete. It totally changed my life to have that fall. The next thing that occurred for me was, like, what do I want to contribute if I'm not going to go play sports? What could be my contribution to the business world? To like, how can I have a mass impact was a big question that I have. How can I touch more than just the people around me? And as a filmmaker and a game designer, I've always been looking for that happy medium where I can take people on a journey that they then end up contributing to. Right? So the first time I made my documentary film, first film that I made, as I was editing it, I realized I was slowly baking it or cauterizing it. Like the thing that for me, which was fluid, was becoming still and immovable. And it meant that I was going to give you something that was finished, right? It's my finished product, but for me it no longer lived. It was no longer alive. And so you might experience it for the first time and it would be alive for you in the first viewing, but then it's not replayable. It doesn't have that same kind of feel of participation.
Yes.
So that's what I then leaned toward gaming and game design, so that I could say, here's a world, participate. Right? Now you're interacting, now you become the story, and now the story is replayable infinitely, because it doesn't matter who's playing it, so there's going to be something new that happens. Right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can the game evolve with the player?
So in the metaphor of the movie, or
no, like literally, like it seems like, so in the movie, I totally got what you're saying. Like, you can't participate.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating for me, actually. I kind of want to get in there sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's the same movie. It's like what is interesting is, though, if you're at a different place in your life, you'll see the movie differently. So it is always different in that way. But obviously, what you're seeing, the words and everything are the same. So, but then a game, you're participating.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's almost like a little bit of like what's happening. I feel like it's almost like a conversation where there's a game, I'm playing the game, and in playing the game, I sort of evolve the game, or like by engaging in an app, the app evolves. In other words, there could be like a 2.0, or there could be, it's like, it's really interesting.
I think it's an interesting question. I'd like to come back to it. Because so what happened for me when I started putting the headset on, when I started to research by participation, was I started to realize that some of the abilities that I had in the games, when I was fully embodying my presence in the virtual environment, and then I would take the headset off, and then I would put the headset back on, and this was over days, right? This isn't like to put the headset on and take off, like in an immediate moment. I'm going in and out, and then I'm driving a car, and then I'm having a conversation, and then I'm eating breakfast, and I'm sleeping, and I'm doing all the things that I do in my life. I started to realize that I was questioning my own senses, I was questioning my own perception of reality. And what actually happens for me in VR is I started to enhance my sense of awareness about the virtual reality, but then that particular skill or that particular muscle started to be present in my everyday reality. So my awareness got broader, the colors were more vivid, language was more interesting to me, interactions were deeper. I mean, all of a sudden I had like woken something up.
Yeah.
That it may have been just excitement about the medium, but I do think the medium itself, because it's embodied presence as a participant in the space, means I'm going to be more aware of what I'm actually doing with myself versus watching something passive where I'm sitting and I'm not embodied and I'm not a participant, or controlling something on a screen that's out there. In my awareness, I'm going, that's there. Even if it's first person, it's still limited, right? And so when I take this on and I'm actually putting reality around me and I'm participating in another reality, then when I come in and out of that virtual reality, this real reality brings with it that level of attention, participation.
And it's, for me, it's like there's a sense of realizing that we are programmed in a whole variety, like you could say conditioning or programming, or in a lots and lots of different ways. And then I'm interfacing with another program, sometimes on a computer, or sometimes in a person, or sometimes in a in an environment. So it's like this program,
culture.
And there's conditioned programming interfacing with other conditioned programming, and it's like if I can learn the program, then there's this freedom to know. It's like an empowerment. How to navigate it and be aware of it. And what I'm realizing in myself, as I become aware of my programming and my conditioning, there is the potential to recondition myself, to reprogram myself. And I think that's what I'm really excited about. It's like that awareness of like, oh, this is just a program. Now I'm aware of the program, and I actually can recode it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the game is like, this is the same game as that. It's like games within games. Like
for sure.
Virtual realities within virtual realities.
Yeah. So that's where I think these layers, looking at your conscious layer, your subconscious layer, and then this superconscious layer, right? So one of the things you just said was like changing my own program.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to note like where that programming is happening. Yeah. Is it happening consciously? Is it happening outside of my conscious awareness? Is it happening by some other force that may